Thank you.
You're welcome.
You get
Now,
5 gold
now he
stars.
really needs to move to Chicago.
What's that?
I said now he really needs to move to Chicago.
Yes, yes. You get 5 gold stars, and I'm going to cook a meal for you for reminding me. Yeah. Any reflections from last week? I know it was 1 week ago. Gosh, Kali Yuga and memories just don't cut it.
I think for me, it's been about so last week you talked about being chastised and how most of the time we don't like to hear that. And so how
Yeah.
open am I to feedback and constructive
Mhm.
criticism and even chastisement? And I actually had to go through, and now that I'm thinking about it and actually connecting the dots, it's funny because I did get chastised by my aunt this week. And yeah, sitting with the discomfort of that.
Hmm. She's not Krishna, so it's a little different, right?
Well, yes, but still.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
Krishna. Um, I was thinking about the point where Krishna started smiling,
Hmm.
looking at Arjuna's misery. That point was very heart touching last week because Krishna was kind of happy because he was seeing a desire in Arjuna to, improve.
Yes.
Oftentimes, I have seen and heard in Srila Prabhupada's lecture is that the unfortunate thing for us living entities is that we don't have the desire to improve. We don't have the capability to even recognize that we are suffering. So at least
Mhm.
Arjuna was suffering, and he realized, and he had no shame in seeking help. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point. It's very hard to sometimes seek help because there's a sense of pride, a sense of self-worth that gets maybe tarnished if I seek help. And courageous are those, progressive are those who can seek actually help. So,
Uh,
yeah. Of course, you have to seek help from the right person.
mhm.
Okay. All right. So let's continue. Text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I must warn you, text 12 and text 13, significant time in the purports are spent by Prabhupada to explain the refutation against the philosophy of Mayavad. In total, there's about 7 different points. No, more than that, I'm sorry. 8 different points that Prabhupada makes in the purport to explain why the Mayavad philosophy doesn't hold water. And one may ask, why is this important? Like, why does he harp on Mayavad philosophy so much? And the reason is because it's pervasive. In fact, my introduction to spiritual life as a 15-year-old boy was Mayavad philosophy, this impersonal philosophy. It's very easy to accept impersonal philosophy. It's very difficult to pass that barrier to accept personal philosophy. Why is that? Because as soon as you bring in a person, you bring in relationship, you bring in accountability, you bring in submission. Those are things that independent-minded, wayward souls don't like. We don't like to be accountable. We don't like to submit. We don't like to surrender. But we like peace. We like to be transcendental. So impersonal philosophy will give you that. And personal philosophy hits at the core of the defect of the wayward soul that's in material existence. And therefore, Mayavad philosophy or impersonal philosophy is very widely accepted throughout the world. Buddhist philosophy is half of Vedic philosophy. It kind of like keeps the other half. And it's very well accepted. Buddhist philosophy is so well accepted in the United States because there's no God to surrender to. There's no person to have this relationship with. There's no one to be accountable to. It's only yourself.
Isn't Buddha incarnation of Krishna?
That may be, but they don't emphasize surrender to Buddha.
Mm.
There are some Buddhist schools where there is personal teachings to some degree. It's covered personalism, where they are praying to a personality named Amitabh Buddha. And there's a beautiful land, what they call it, I can't remember. There's a specific land where Amitabh Buddha resides, and you pray to Buddha and you do your Buddhist practices and you enter into that land. So there is some aspects of Buddhism or some schools of thought in Buddhism that do have personalism to it, but for the most part, the end goal is nirvana, which is impersonal. And in fact, in Buddhism, they don't have the concept of a soul. They don't understand the concept of a soul. They understand the concept of reincarnation, but then you ask them, what is reincarnating? They don't have an answer for that. Anyway, my point being, back to the point here, is the fact that impersonalism is very, very pervasive, and therefore you'll see very often in Prabhupada's books, he's attacking that teaching, that philosophy. Okay. So text 12. Keshava, would you like to read?
Sure. I'm going to try to Sanskrit. Natva evaham chadunasam natvam nim jadan dipaham nachevana bhavishuyamaha sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Purport. In the Vedas, the Katha Upanishad, as well as the Svetasvatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to the individual work and reaction of work. That the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain perfect eternal peace. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned, but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord states clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their condition and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Individual Person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associates, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they do not exist as individuals in the past. It is not that they will remain eternal persons. Their individuality exists in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause of lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi story that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported here by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Authority. Nor is there a theory that we only think of individuality and conditioned state supported here. Krishna clearly says here that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishad, will continue eternally. The statement of Krishna is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that individuality spoken by Krishna is not spiritual but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared as a subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No Monday book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, the individuality is maintained on the spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that the spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotees approach the teachings of the Gita in something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the fourth chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by Mayavadis and warns us that one who takes such a understanding of the Mayavad philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and the Lord is an internal fact and is confirmed by the Vedas as above mentioned. Jai. What a perfect one. So, Prabhupada, I guess just like you were describing earlier, that the importance of the individuality is basically what, I mean, maybe there's different aspects of it, but the idea of individuality of the jiva and the supreme person is the main difference of the Mayavad philosophy and our teachings, and basically the personal teachings. Because there's also other religions that also teach kind of personal teachings too, right? Like Christianity, maybe to some degree, and um, I don't know about Judaism. I think Judaism might be a little bit more impersonal, but anyway. But there's a little bit of an aspect of relationship in those religions to some degree.
Yeah.
Um, but I was gonna say something. Let me see. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, like I really like that point when Prabhupada mentions that it is being envious of Krishna is what prevents these people to, in one sense, to accept the personal aspect of God. Now, in one sense, it's okay for someone to be misguided, right? Because we all like don't know, but to purposely try to convince yourself that God is cannot be person. He has to be some kind of like a neutral kind of type of spiritual smoothie. Then obviously we have some issues with the whole personal understanding, right? Like it is some
Yes, yes.
hatred towards that idea. So
Isn't it interesting that the very first instruction that Krishna gives Arjuna, because Arjuna asks, okay, please guide me, what to do. I'm in this middle of the battlefield. And Krishna says, you're speaking like a learned person, but you're really not that learned. People don't lament for the wise. The wise don't lament for the living or the dead. That's the first thing he says. Then the very next thing, he establishes that we're all individuals eternally. You go back in the past, we were a person. Right now, we're each individual person. You go to the future, and we'll always be persons, like individual persons. I was in a meeting last week, I want to say. So I have this department meeting on a quarterly basis with the entire team, and we were presenting before what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about somebody who had started in the company long time. Oh no, it was talking about a Chinese guy that's on the team, and he had just gone to China. And so we asked him, "Do you feel at home in China?" He says, "No." So this is before the meeting started. So we're asking him, "Why do you not feel like you're in China?" So one of the guys asked, "How long you been here in the United States?" He says, "In 92." Then we were like, "Oh, that makes sense. That's why you feel like the US is your home and not so much China." And that guy said, "Yeah, I mean, you're more US than I am because I was born in 95." And then I looked at the guy and I said, what were you doing before that? And he, that question threw him off, like totally threw him off. Like, uh, no, I never thought about that. You know, like what was I doing before I was born? Like, so individuality exists prior to this birth, and that individuality continues past this birth and past this particular life. Such a simple but deep concept. And then somebody else said in some other, I think it was some other meeting that somebody said, oh no, I was in India and I was speaking to an Islamic guy, a family friend, and he was saying, I don't believe in multiple lives. I don't believe in my previous life or anything like that. But if you think about it, that makes no logical sense. Why? Right now, if you say you're born, and Christians think this way, I think all Abrahamic religions, like you're born out of nothingness, you have this life, and then you have an eternal life that you can access. But it doesn't, what happened to your previous life? Well, no, there's nothing like that. Your life started in this your existence started in this life. How does that make sense? If you're an eternal soul, eternal means you transcend time, right? Eternal means you go forward in time, there's existence. You go back in time, there's existence because you're eternal. If you say that the soul is eternal and you only go forward in existence and don't go back in existence, that means you're bound within time. That means you're not eternal. Simple logic. So anyway, I don't know why people don't get it. But it's so interesting.
But we are bound by time, right? Isn't that what like the in the Bhagavatam and the Gita, like Prabhupada also says, time is of essence. It's the time of emergency. We have to do bhakti, and so we are kind of bound by time, aren't we?
The soul is not.
Not the soul, correct? You're right. Yeah,
In a conditioned existence, yes, we're bound by time. The
right,
body
right.
is bound
Okay,
by time. The
the
body is bound.
body, correct.
The
Yeah.
mind is bound by time. The soul is not.
Okay.
We're talking about the soul.
Okay.
And that's who you are. That's who I am. That's who we are. We're the soul. We're the covering of the body. The body is conditioned, the soul is not. So it's really interesting. Krishna begins with this very statement that we are individual eternal beings and we'll always be individual eternal beings. We have a personality, we have a spiritual personality that may not be awake right now. Right now, each of us have a material personality and it's very unique. Each one of us is very different. That that uniqueness remains even after liberation, even after the soul is released from this body. I find that really nice to know that, I'm unique. I have value, even though I'm really tiny. I have value, I'm unique, I have meaning to Krishna. I have a special, unique relationship with God. Kapil has his special, unique relationship with God. Linnea has her. And each of us have our own special, unique relationship with God, even though we're really tiny and insignificant. But to Krishna, we're significant. It's really nice. Okay, any other reflections or comments on this verse in Prabhupada?
My question is, why don't people get it? As you said that they don't get it. Why? I mean, yes, it logically, if you think it makes sense that individuality was there in the past, it exists and will continue to exist. Why don't they get it? I don't see. Because Prabhupada also said that, like, he was talking against Darwin's theory of existence, that matter comes from life and the opposite is not true.
Well, two things I'll say in response to that. Number one, do you think we're rational beings or emotional beings?
Emotional.
Emotional.
Yeah.
Both are acquired, acquired things,
Are
right?
we more strongly rational beings or more strongly emotional beings?
Emotional.
Let me ask you another to drive that point home a little more. If um if you have a partner, okay, who makes very good rational decisions and doesn't really love you, or you have a partner that really loves you and expresses it, but has real strong difficulty making rational decisions, which would you pick?
Second one.
At the heart, we're emotional beings. We think we make decisions based on rationality, but actually, we use rationality to cover our emotional choice that's already pre-made. Therefore, when there's an emotional connection to a community or a philosophy or a religion or something like that, we make choices based on that emotional response rather than what's rational. So that's one response to your question. Another response to your question is Tarko Apratishta, that logic in itself doesn't have foundation. Apratishta doesn't have foundation. Meaning, I can bring you this logic today about eternality, having existence in the future and the past, and you can come back and use more sophisticated logic and contradict it. And like that, we can debate all day long. Now, I cannot come up with a contradiction right now, but someone who's very intelligent can come up with a contradiction. And so, logic in itself doesn't have pratishta, doesn't have foundation. Tarko apratishta, shutayo vibhina, and many of the scriptures have vibhina, divergent. They have divergent direction. Different scriptures say different things.
Mm.
So then, Dharmasya tattva nihitam guhayam. To understand what is really true, dharma, it's all hidden. How do you know? Mahajano yena gata sapanta. That you can know it only from Mahajans, from great souls who have walked the path and who are who are transcendental. You can learn from them. So the point being, so the second point I was trying to make was that Tarko apratishta, just by logic, it's very hard to convince someone.
Mm.
Oh, that's why people don't get it. And they can always come back with a more refined logic to your stance. So then it begs the question, and I'm going to sort of put the mirror on yourself. Are you based on rationality? Are you connected to Krishna consciousness? Are you based on emotions? You're connected to Krishna consciousness.
For sure, emotions.
Think about it. It always helps to get good logical answers, no doubt. But that is not good enough to draw the soul into Krishna's association.
Yeah, actually, it's deep. Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. If we think, yeah.
And that's why it's important to chant the holy name, right? Otherwise, it's very difficult to comprehend this literature. I mean, just on its own without,
Thank you for sharing that. Excellent point.
you know. That's why I was thinking about Gorkshore Das Babaji. He didn't even like, he was illiterate, right? And he was just able to, I mean, I'm not saying we can imitate that, but still, the holy name is just, that goes beyond
The
logic. Because how
chanting,
can,
yeah, they're like two tracks on the for the train to go. You need both
yeah.
tracks so the train can go now, unless you're monorail. But usually trains need two tracks. The rational side that'll guide us, the scriptures, and then the emotional side, or the more heart level side, which is the chanting. Both of them together guides us towards Krishna.
That's the fundamentals of psychology, Prabhu. The left brain is rational, and the right brain seeks unity and
Yeah.
oneness.
Yes. And you can be the most intelligent person, but if your right brain is not well satisfied, you'll commit suicide, like many intelligent people have done in the past. That
Yes,
right
yeah,
brain is
possible.
so important. It's so important. And I'm looking at Sonia with her, psychiatry background. I mean, she probably knows this day in and day out, right? She experiences this. That right brain needs to really be taken care of. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are.
Mm.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments?
It's very hard to balance both, right? Like you're saying, the two train tracks. One is the rational, one is the emotional.
Yeah.
It's very hard to balance that and have a
Why do you
good
say that?
balance of it. Huh?
Why do you say that?
Because the mind is it's so tricky, you know. The mind wants to do something, but your heart overtakes it, and then you it's that rational and emotional is the mind and the heart kind of at the same level, right? So it's very, very difficult to and, keep that in balance
That's if
because
you mean that's if they're in conflict, right?
yeah,
For
yeah,
example, you're in a relationship that's not healthy for you. Your intelligence says not healthy for you, don't do it.
right,
And then your mind, your emotional side,
heart, yeah,
oh gosh, yeah, it's abusive, but I gotta be in it. I can't be alone. That
right.
when you reach that kind of situation, yeah, that makes sense. Yet in the spiritual path, they can align, and they should align, where one is feeding the other, where the intelligence is guiding you to seek shelter in an emotional level with Krishna. And then the emotional is going, I want to learn more about who I'm trying to take shelter of. And so the
Right.
intelligence kicked. So they actually symbiotic. They're meant to be symbiotic, the head and the heart on the spiritual path.
Right.
But I can see, there is conflict on the material side, like constantly. Our head is saying something, our heart is saying something else, and then there's conflict. How does that land? Does that make sense? What do you think?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I this is my work. I see it every day, so it's
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts, comments?
Prabhu, Christ also on cross, I read that he said these people don't know what they are saying and
Yeah.
excuse them or something. I
Yeah.
felt that's a very greatest um, godly thing anyone can think of, because even Gandhi said we cannot neutralize hate with hate,
Yeah.
but love only can deal with the hate. And with all these years of living, I'm seeing that love is the only one, the greatest achievement human can have. And if Krishna is what is love, definitely that is. Why I'm saying is because people are emotional about Christ. If you see people get nailed on the cross, some of the people on some day they go on cross. I watched a video. They get nailed to the cross, living people
Wow.
in symbolism.
Wow.
Yeah, that is emotion I'm saying. And
Yeah.
Christianity, I felt that it is popular because of the emotional side, not necessarily rational. That's why I brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Keshav, can you pick the next person?
Let me see who I pick again. I'll do Linnea.
All right. Text 13. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates into another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the supersoul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme soul's being did I mix up a word there? No, supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, and are called, how do you
Shara.
pronounce that? Kshara.
Kshara, yeah. You can, it's, the K is silent.
Kshara.
Yeah.
That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmented. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life of bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon, and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need for one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya.
Thank you. This is probably one of the most famous verses Prabhupada would quote so many times. Okay, any comments, reflections, points that you particularly liked?
I like the, well, I'm torn between liking and not liking. um, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such
Mm,
changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. That's great when it's a noble soul, but when you lose someone that's not so noble, it's still hard to not lament for them if you believe that. I mean, it's not for us to control or to say where they went, but losing someone who is not so noble and thinking they might have attained more suffering in the next life
mm,
is not so reassuring.
yeah. Do you know the story of Prahlad?
Yes.
So Prahlad had similar feelings. He had the grace of Krishna to show up right in front of him in the form of Narasimhadev. And Prahlad felt so delighted to be in Krishna's and Narasimhadev's shelter and company and offered him beautiful prayers and told, don't give me any benediction. Don't try to entice me and say, okay, I'm God, I can give you whatever you want. And and I'm gonna ask for I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't Our relationship's not meant to be, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. No, it's not. We're not merchants, bro. He uses the word merchant. He knows that Nrsingadev wants to give him a benediction. He knows Nrsingadev says, please take something. And Prahlad say, I'm not a merchant. You're not a merchant. And you're a real master. You're not the kind of master that wants people to like them. So I don't want to engage in that kind of relationship with you. I just want to serve you. That's our relation. That's it. I serve you, you're the master, and that's it. That's our relationship. Such purity, such sweetness. Yet in his heart, he felt this compassion towards his dad. It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen to my dad? Pretty messed up fellow. Krishna had to personally come and kill him. And so he had this, wait on him a little bit. So then Nrsimhadev finally said, please take something. And Prahlad said, if you want to give me a benediction, just let my dad, be liberated from his karmic reaction. And Nrsimhadev responded to him and said, hey, that's already done. Because of who you are, several generations before you and several generations after you already liberated. You come in the family of daityas, of demons, that's all right. But because of who you are, the people around you get the benefit. So, yes, we cannot control what happens with another person. But if one becomes, one really becomes intimate with Krishna, Krishna takes care of those they are intimate with. So we can't directly control it, but we can influence what happens to such persons that we care for, but may not be headed in the right direction just by us growing in bhakti. And that's reassuring. How does that land? What do you think?
I wish I was a better devotee so that I could help those that I love. Um, it gives hope.
Mm.
So how does the 7 generations before you and the 7 after, how does that work? Is it, your
They
parents, your
don't get,
grandparents, like
yeah,
that kind of generation,
everyone
or
that you're connected to, they
your
they get
siblings?
their siblings, everyone gets spiritual benefit. And the spiritual benefit is not that like they don't have to take another material body, but their karmic reactions become subsided drastically. That's the liberation. They get liberated from karmic reactions. Um, if you want me
It
to
doesn't
find,
count for spouses, does it?
oh, certainly counts for spouses.
It does.
Absolutely does. Because why does it count for spouses? Because especially because generally the man is considered to be the leader in the family. If the man receives spiritual benefit or whatever spiritual benefit the man receives, the wife gets automatically half the benefit. Automatically. That's the math formula. The other way around also works, but the scriptures speak about the man and the wife getting half the benefit.
Just half.
Yes. Here's the quote. Can you see?
Yes.
So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10, Text 18. So Prahlad Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you're so merciful, this is 15 to 17. You're so merciful to fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you. falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavy sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. The sweet heart and the gentle heart of Prahlad is manifested here. And Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Krishna says, Tri Saptabhi. So not just 7 generations. Tri Saptabhi is 7 multiplied by 3, 21. Pita, Puta. Pita, father, Puta, purified. Pitrabhi Sahate Naga. That, my dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified, along with 21 forefathers in your family, because you were born in this family. The entire dynasty has been purified. So then, Prabhupada explains the word Tri Saptabi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great grandfather or even one's great grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. So the encouragement here is become a devotee. It's
Get
your.
married to a devotee.
Huh?
No, I'm just joking. No,
What
no,
did you
never
say?
mind.
Get
Never
married to
mind.
a, get married to a devotee? Yeah, that's another way to do it. It's an easy ticket. Yeah. Okay, any other comments?
What about people who are just close to you in this lifetime? They might not necessarily have a blood relation to you. Are they still probably getting a benefit?
By logical
Yeah.
assessment, sure, they get benefit, right? Because if the person's associated with you, they'll get your association. And if you're a
Mm-hmm.
good devotee, if you have bhakti in your heart, it spills over. You can't help it. You just like throw some bhakti into their heart. They may not be receptive, that's okay. But it does leave an
Yeah.
impact. It leaves an impression.
Even though they're like completely not interested in that, like I
That's
would
right.
rather
That's
I
right.
would rather eat dust, for example, than listen to a spiritual
It
life.
leaves an impact. It leaves an
Yeah.
impact.
Wow.
The softness of heart of a devotee who has love for Krishna, doesn't matter who they interact with, it leaves an impression. That seed of an impression may fructify in next life or in future lives, but it is an
Mm-hmm.
impression that is embedded within the heart of another soul. Yes.
I see. Thank you.
It's a very beautiful thing, Bhakti. It's a very precious thing.
I just keep putting everything back in the context as we're reading through it again. Arjuna is on the battlefield, about to fight his family, kill people he loves, respects, who've trained him. He's emotional. He believes he's using logic for reasons that he should not move forward with the fight. And these are Krishna's responses. You are not a learned person. You're not speaking logic. The soul has always existed, will continue to exist. They will always be separate. And as the soul continuously passes in this body, boyhood, youth to old age, the soul similarly passes to another body at death. Like, it's really hard day to day, minute to minute, to think of that bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I'm not even standing on a battlefield.
Thank you for that. That's a good summary. All right, I'm going to open up rooms to breakout rooms, talk about takeaways and um, what we particularly liked from today's reading and discussion. Please join your rooms. Okay. Welcome back. Any final thoughts before we close out?
I think Srinivas had a really good question.
Before we go to a question, can I share Kapil and Keshava like just knocked it out of the park? They just signed it, sealed it, done.
Go ahead.
So I did the summary closeout kind of thing, and that's just what I kept coming back to. And Kapil said that he had heard life is our battlefield, and it's the everyday decisions are the battles that we fight. And similarly, when you think about machines, machines come with manuals and how we operate them. Our bodies are like the machines, the Vedas are like the manuals. We also use guidance from devotees and spiritual masters, and then Krishna comes to us through the Gita to help us in the battlefield of life. So I really liked all of those points that he made. And then Keshava sealed it at the end with chanting. Chanting is the number one thing.
Did that answer the question, Neelish?
No, no. The question that Srinivasa had was that if our souls are pure and we are forever existing from previous to future lives, how is our karmas going along with it?
How is the soul attached to karma? Soul,
Yeah,
how's
what's the
the soul
binding?
attached to impure karma?
Yeah, like you have what's the binding force? What is that makes it go
False
forward?
ego, ahankar.
Ego. Oh, okay.
False ego is the chain between a pure, unfettered soul to the rest of material existence. At the root of it is the most subtle binding force is the false ego, or that energy that says, I am the body and I am the doer. So that subtle energy ties that which is spiritual to that which is material. From false ego mixing with the various modes of nature, the body comes, the mind comes, the intelligence comes. It's all sourced from the mode of goodness plus false ego equals the mind. Mode of goodness, mode of passion plus false ego equals the intelligence. Mode of ignorance plus false ego equals to the physical body that we have. So everything that we are experiencing is stemming from this energy called false ego. Now, why does the false ego arise? That's when the soul turns away from Krishna. Then the gift is false ego and everything that ensues from that. That entire detail of creation, of how that all happens, is in third canto of the Bhagavatam that you can very in minute detail study. So here we are.
That's beautiful, Prabhu. But once the body and mind dissolves, as the body dies, neurons die.
The mind
That's the,
stays. The subtle body, the mind continues on, and the mind carries the soul to the next destination. This is discussed by Krishna in the 15th chapter of the Gita.
I think that's the most dangerous thing the prayer is answering, Prabhu. Yeah, I do not know that mind gets carried.
And mind carries the soul. Krishna gives the example, just like wind carries aromas, similarly, the mind or the subtle body carries the soul to the next body.
Wow. But that's the missing part for most of the
Yeah.
humans.
Look it up, 15 chapter, text 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. We'll end there. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and week.